Welcome again to the Old Principal. I am the Old Principal, and we're going to have a little English and a little philosophy. Well, you expect somebody who's old to be philosophical about life, wouldn't you? Okay, this is 177, and it's called Wild Play. Do you know what this is? This is actually called a snow leopard. Okay, bao. This leopard likes cold weather. There are many different kinds of leopards. But before we begin, let's listen to the story.
Story 177, Wild Play. Mr. Hall had a business of obtaining wild animals for people. A certain leopard cub attracted his attention, and his family adopted it as a household pet. It would sleep in the same room at night with him and loved to romp with the members of the family. Mr. Hall was careful to only feed it cooked meat, and it grew and grew. Finally, it became too large to continue living at his house, so he arranged for the animal to be transferred to the Portland Zoo. Several days later, he drove to the zoo in search of his dear pet. He wanted to see how the cat was adjusting to the new environment, but the man was even more curious to see if the leopard would still remember his old master. When Mr. Hall saw the zoo attendant in charge, he asked him how his pet was doing. The attendant remarked, "He's doing all right, but he's too particular about his food. If the meat is raw and not cooked, he won't eat it. He just looks at it and growls a lot." Then Mr. Hall went to the enclosure where his leopard now lived. His pet came right over and enthusiastically licked his fingers through the bars. At this point, Mr. Hall asked the attendant whether he might enter the enclosure and have a good romp or play with his animal friend. The attendant was a bit wild-eyed at this request. He wasn't sure just what might happen. Perhaps Mr. Hall would be mauled. The leopard was overjoyed, and the fun between man and animal began. I can just imagine that it was quite a rough romp, but there was a camaraderie between these two that amazed the zoo visitors on the outside. At long last, and probably worn out, Mr. Hall called on the attendant to help him get out. It was not easy, since the leopard wanted to come along too and accompany his master back to his former home.
Welcome back, and now we begin our story. Mr. Hall had a business. So this is his 生意. This is what he does for a livelihood. This is how he makes money. Some people would say, not euphemistically, but some people would say, well, this is how he puts beans and bread on the table. So, well, whatever. Okay, so Mr. Hall had a business of obtaining wild animals for people. So what does it mean when it says to obtain? Obtain simply means that he is buying, sometimes trading for. You could say to obtain means to get. Okay. Anyway, this was Mr. Hall's business. He was in the business of buying or getting or obtaining animals, okay, wild animals, wild animals, 野生的, okay, and he would get them for people. Going on, a certain leopard cub attracted his attention. Leopard is 豹, and cub would be 小豹. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, a leopard cub or a leopard kitten, you can say it this. Anyway, he was quite interested in this. 不但是吸引他 his attention, so much so that his family adopted. They adopted this leopard cub. What does it mean to adopt? Well, for a human being, it means to 收养, 收养. So he adopted it. In other words, it became their pet. You will hear the word pet. That's a 宠物. Okay? As a household pet. So the leopard lived within the house, inside the house, and it becomes a household pet. Now, actually, we have in America, but I'm sure that this is true, we have outdoor pets and indoor pets. Huai. Huai is outdoor. It's outside the house. It stays outside the house. And then, of course, in this case, the family adopted as a household pet, so we have the pet, the leopard, living inside the house. Going on. It would sleep in the same room at night with him and love to romp with the members of the family. So where did it sleep? It slept with him. Now it's true. Sometimes some people like the animals to actually sleep on their bed. For me, no thanks, I'm not into that. My bed is for myself and my wife, of course, but not for an animal. They would sleep in the same room at night, at least in the same room, and he loved to romp with the family. Okay, now, you're going to see the word romp more than once in this story, so let's get an idea what romp means. To romp is a way of saying to run around and to play. I think that this original article was written by somebody who has a British background, because I'm not used to using the word romp. Romp means to play, 一起玩, okay? But it gives the idea of running and enjoying oneself. Okay, Mr. Hall was careful to only feed it cooked meat, and it grew and grew and grew. So normally, a leopard would eat raw meat, 生的, 不是熟的, 不是煮的, okay? But he cooked the meat. So the animal got used to 习惯吃煮的, 不是生的. Going on. Finally, it became too large to continue living at his home, so he arranged for the animal to be transferred to the Portland Zoo. Okay, Portland Zoo. I can think of two Portlands in America. 一个是在东部，一个在西部. And actually, you could almost say that Portland, Oregon is my hometown. And yes, they have a zoo, 动物园. Portland, a big Portland zoo. I've been there a number of times. 不晓得多少次. Okay, became too large, 长得太大了. So he needed to arrange for this leopard so it could be transferred to the Portland Zoo. Transfer, that means to 从他的家移到这个 Portland 动物园. Going on, several days later, he drove to the zoo in search of his dear pet. Okay, now this is some days later. It says several days. It may have been more, but anyway, several days later, he drove to the zoo. Drive, 就是开自己的车, to the zoo in search for his dear pet. Deer means that this 宠物, the word 宠物 gives you the idea of being dear, but in this case, deer really means 真的是有感情的. Going on. He wanted to see how the cat was adjusting. He wanted to see how the cat was, okay, to adjust. What does it mean to adjust? To adjust means to shearing. So he wanted to see if the cat, the leopard, was adjusting okay. He wanted to see how the cat was adjusting to his new environment. 环境. He was, obviously it's no longer in his house, and so he's in a new environment, 新的环境. So he's waiting, or he's going to see how he's doing. And the man was even more curious to see if the leopard would still remember his old master. Well, now, obviously, it's only a few days. Maybe I wrote it wrong. Maybe I should have written a month or two. But anyway, a few days, should remember his old master, right? Should remember. So, 他要看的会不会还记得还认识他的主人 his old master. In this case, old gives the idea not so much 老 as his former, 这个以前的主人. Okay, going on. When Mr. Hall saw the zoo attendant, what is a zoo attendant? A zoo attendant is somebody who takes care of the animals. 这个管这个动物的在动物园. Okay, attendant, a zoo attendant. And so when he saw the zoo attendant in charge, okay, this is the one 是负责那个区, okay, he asked him how his pet was doing. So he asked him, how is my pet doing? And this is what the attendant remarked. Okay, when we say the attendant, of course, that's a person, remark, this is what he said. This is what he said. Okay, going on. He's doing all right, but he's too particular about his food. He's doing all right. but he's too particular about his food. Okay, he's doing all right. 现在过得还不错呢。But he is too particular about his food. 对他所吃的东西太挑剔、太讲究。Okay, too particular. 挑食。Okay, picky. Okay. So, in what way was he too particular? Going on. If the meat is raw and not cooked, he won't eat it. He just looks at it and growls. If the meat is raw and not cooked, of course, you know why that would be, because Mr. Hall only gave him cooked meat to start with. If it's raw, 是生的，不是煮的. Okay, he won't eat it. He just looks at it and growls. What does it mean to growl? Growl is a type of voice. It's not a happy sound. If a dog growls, you better be careful, because that's not a happy sign. And so when the leopard is growling, that means he's not happy. In fact, in the English language, if it says a certain person growled, that means he spoke and he's not happy, 是有生气等等而讲话的。Going on. So then Mr. Hall went to the enclosure where the leopard now lived. In this case, enclosure means something with four walls, or maybe some kind of fence, 篱笆, or it could be a building. Enclosure means many, many different things. Where his leopard now lives. So he went there, and his pet came right over. Okay, so now he's going to the enclosure, but not inside the cage. 还没有到这个笼里面. His pet came right over. 马上过来, and enthusiastically licked his fingers through the bars. Okay, now, when you say 这个笼啊, the cage, 有铁条, right? Lots of bars. So the leopard enthusiastically licked his hands. 用他的舌头舔他的手. Okay? Now, enthusiastically. If you're enthusiastic about something, what are you? 很有精神的. Enthusiastic. And usually enthusiastic means 快乐. Also, happy, enthusiastic, energetically licked 舔他的手指头. Through the bars. Through the bars, of course. Mr. Hall is on the outside and the leopard is on the inside. Going on. At this point, Mr. Hall asked the attendant whether he might enter the enclosure and have a good romp, play. So now this time, I actually wrote it in so that you could understand that romp means play, although it means to run and to play and things like that with his animal friend. 到了这个地步, at this point, Mr. Hall asked whether Now whether 是否他能不能够这个能够进去 Okay, so I imagine, yeah, I imagine that the attendant said his eyes got big and he said, "Oh, no, 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 no. We don't do that. Oh, we can't do that." Okay, Mr. Hall, but he asked 是否能进去吗？可以跟这个豹一起玩。Now, what do you think the attendant was thinking going on? The attendant 这个管这个动物的那位 was a bit wild-eyed. Well, I'm sure that you can't tell it, but wild-eyed means the eyes 这个是眼睛很大的，眼睛很大。And usually it gives the idea of fear. And so the attendant was a bit, 有一点点 a bit wild-eyed at this request. 听到这个要求。He wasn't sure just what might happen. He wasn't sure just what might happen. Okay, perhaps Mr. Hall would be mauled. Do you know what the word maul means? Maul doesn't mean to be killed. Maul means especially cats. They take their paws, 爪子, and they maul. That means that they are hurting somebody. So the attendant was afraid that the leopard would hurt Mr. Hall. In fact, there was a little section in here, and I took it out, that even said that he had to sign a sheet of paper so that 他不负责任, okay? So anyway, but I'm sure that this would have to be, you'd have to expect that. Okay, the attendant was a bit wild-eyed at the request. Okay, going on. The leopard was overjoyed. He was very, very happy. And the fun, remember, the fun, the play between man and animal began. So Mr. Hall began to play with the animal. Wow. And did they ever play? They were running. They were doing tricks. Now, at this point, I'm sure that the people who had come to the zoo were quite surprised. I can just imagine that it was quite a rough romp. But there was camaraderie between the two that amazed the zoo visitors. These are the people who had paid money. At the Portland Zoo, you pay money to go in there. So the zoo visitors were amazed. 蛮惊讶的, okay? Why? Because they saw a man playing with a dangerous leopard. And they were playing with such camaraderie. Now that's a good long word, camaraderie. Do you know what camaraderie means? Camaraderie means a friendship, a close relationship. 很亲密的关系。So they recognize this. Between these two. Okay, now going back a little bit, when it says it was a rough romp, that means, sometimes we say in English, no holds barred. That's a wrestling, 摔跤的一个名称啊. No holds. That means that they were running and playing and wrestling and maybe even this was a rough romp going on. At long last, and probably worn out, okay, after a long amount of time, and probably worn out, 或许已经筋疲力尽, Mr. Hall called on the attendant to help him get out. 他叫这个服务员，这个管动物园的来帮助他离开这个笼里面. Going on. It was not easy since the leopard wanted to come along too. Of course, the leopard said, "Excuse me, okay, I've had a lot of fun. Now can I go home with you?" You see? So the leopard wanted to leave too. He wanted to accompany 陪他的主人回到他原来的家. Wow. What a story. Sometimes these stories are too good to be true. This one comes from 我的老家, the Portland Zoo is in Portland, Oregon, 美国西北方. Let's take a look at how you can write to us. Our email address is theoldprinciple@gmail.com, theoldprinciple@gmail.com. And our website, www.theoldprinciple.org. Hey, it's been great being with you, and I hope that you'll join us next time.